Salutations! I am Kartosael and welcome to yet another episode from the Tales of Kartonia. Always having difficulties. There we go. I don't know why, but oh well. As you can see, I hope, we are back at Kartonia, so that means we're up in the air again. And I managed to bring Bandit. Woo! He's no longer in that dreary hole all the way there. He's now here with us. Not only that, but if you can remember, if you dig down here, there's now stones instead of void. Well, not actually void, but I managed to fill up the entire island. In the end I had to do that with blocks because I couldn't reach with my lava bucket anymore. Without burning buildings. Oh, that's not what I wanted. And I have different headset right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't do well with recording sound. It actually doesn't. I was hoping it did. But everything's coming a lot louder. So if I get startled, then you know how that happens. Well, what about just turning down the sound? Well, it's already pretty low. Though I guess I could. Yeah, that's better. Strangely enough, still pretty loud. Anyway, today is Thursday. Yes, I know I normally record on Friday, but tomorrow, or by the time you see this today, I have an exam. I don't like exams, I can tell you that much, but it's an important one, and actually this episode is going to be pretty short because I still need to study. Already did study, of course, but I need to study some more. Yeah. So, short episode, and this time I really do mean it, because I know I say that a lot, and then I look at the recording and, oh, it's actually quite long. That's because when I say it's going to be a short episode, it usually means that I didn't take a lot of time to record it. Doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't take a lot of time to watch it. Anyway, what I'm going to do today, it's not building something new, it's working on stuff that is already existing. If you're really observant, you may have already seen it behind me. Oh, I've added these trapdoors, but that's just for fun. When you look at this building, from the inside, by example, I like this style a lot. There's just one downside, it's very bland. You have green and grey and different grey. And that's it. And of course the floor with a carpet, which makes it a bit better, but not tremendously. So it's a bit boring, to be honest. So we're going to change that. And it's a bit different for these buildings and those, and I will come to that. And we're going to use a technique that I wouldn't say invented, but the way I'm going to explain it now is how I think about it, so don't take it as a rule of thumb, but if you can use it, please do. It comes down to adding texture to your build. Of course, that's pretty long, so I'm calling it fluffing things up, because it sounds more modern and fancy and weird. So, general gist of it, we have these 5 blocks in our buildings. Actually we have 4, but we either have this one or that one. For now. There's going to be an extra, but I didn't say that. And I forgot to bring shears. Anyway, I can explain some things already. Those 5 blocks form what I will call the basic blocks. When you build a wall out of one block type, if you do so desire, like I did so over here, and walls like that, but also bigger walls. This is just an example, and you can use it in your own build. So if you have one straight area of one block type, and you want to make it a bit prettier, because that really is kind of dull to do. As you can see over there, it looks bad. It just does. Well, not necessarily bad, but you get my drift. It doesn't look as good as it should be. However, there's a difference between when you're building stuff and you combine different blocks. For example, we combined our cobble, our stone brick and our leaves. Those are different materials and different parts of the building. What I'm talking about is really just one wall, one type of block, and you want to fluff that up. Now, so you have the basic, and the thing you want to fluff it up with, I will call the fluff. That's why I'm using a really weird word. So let's start with the leaves as an example. What you want with the fluff is something that looks a lot like the basic. So there are two things that can differ: texture and color. As you can see here, the texture of the oak leaves when compared to the... Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. Let's get a bit on top. Texture of the oak leaves and texture of the spruce leaves. The textures are rather similar, which is good, but the colors are actually quite different. You may not see it that well, like over there, but if you try to implement that, let's say over here, it does stand out quite a bit. Actually not as much as I thought it would. But that's nice if you want to combine two colors, not if you want to add the fluff. So, two things can be different: the color and the texture. For fluff, you preferably, if possible, want a slightly different texture without changing the color too much. For example, if we take these, the oak leaves, and place jungle leaves right next to them, you see that the color is pretty much the same, but the texture is different. So this is going to be a good fluff for that. And in case you don't believe me, I will show you later on. Now for birch is very bright, it's very pale. So is sandstone. Very different texture, and although this is quite a different color, they are both very pale. So not many colors are, and that's why they still will look good together. This one I haven't got a fluff for, I'll be honest. It has several reasons. For example, let's take running, because you could see cobble right next to it, and that didn't really look like a fluff. It looked like a different block like you have over here. Besides that, I'm also using those two as different materials, as different parts of my build, so that would not be a good idea. This is not that good a fluff. As you see, these two, they differ a lot. This one is pretty dark because of those lines, and this one's pretty bright because it doesn't have those lines. Come back to me. So I don't have an appropriate fluff for that one. This one is much darker than that one because of all of those lines, and this is a bit chaotic if you look at it. That one's very neat, it's just lines and more straight lines, and this is all wiggly, so those two really accentuate each other rather than blend together. So what I've taken for that is gravel. This is also pretty chaotic, all these different hues in circular shapes, at least that's what they're supposed to be, just like this one. So they have corresponding texture without being too much different in color. Oak logs. My first thought was actually spruce logs, but it has the same problem as the spruce leaves. The color is just too different. Whereas if you take these jungle logs, you see that the color isn't all that different, but the texture is. So that's kind of what we're going for. And then we grab some of these materials and I will show you how to fluff up this building as an example. Alright, so I cut the blocks, and as I mentioned, the fluff blocks are meant to give some texture to your building. They are not meant to replace what is already there. So one rule of thumb when using the fluff technique is that you use your fluff blocks sparingly. Because if, you know, I did this and you would stand in front, it would be like, I don't know, is this building jungle leaf or is this oak leaf? I don't know anymore. So if you use too much of your fluff block, it tends to compete too much with your basic block. You do not want that. Then that's just adding another color, another block with not really fluffing things up. So use them sparingly. Sometimes it might be good not to even use it at all, like that column over there. It does help to group them together. So as an example, let's take that one from outside. If you do this, that's possible, but it looks better if you have small clusters like this. That will work, but the larger the wall becomes, the more important that will become as well. Do some over here, there, over there. As I said, not too much, that's very important. Do some in the roofing here. Did I? Yes, I did. And yeah, I'll take that one too. And I lost the leaves, but I still have quite a bit of oak leaf, so that's not too much of a problem. So when it comes to the floor, oh, you have no idea how good it feels to finally be able to chop this out without falling into the water again. This works in the same way. It's a lot larger surface than those leaves were. So here you see the importance of clustering them together. And let's do like that, but not too systematic. I thought I heard something bad. Because if I would also take this, then it would be too big of an area, especially if I also would have taken that one. Then it would have looked too much like, you know, everything beneath the chests is that block. So I'm not going to do that. Can do some over here. And diagonal does count as being grouped up a bit. Is this light enough? It is. So as you can see, it already starts to look much more live. This is really worn out floor. Is this the best block to use? Well, yeah. For these two materials, for birch as your base, this is probably your best fluff. At least for flooring, because if you're going to try and use it for walls, you get this problem. You probably need to find something else. You could also use oak wood, to be honest. I think I can show that. And that's actually just down to a personal preference. I tried them both. And I like the sandstone just a bit more. But if you like the oak more, which I'm going to show you right now, you can just as well do that. That makes a good fluff as well. Why? Although the texture is the same, I said you should try and make those two different, not as much the color. Wood is a bit of a strange thing in that, because wood, if you change texture, it's obviously not wood anymore. Whereas this is still leaf, because that one's leaf as well. So you could also use that, but that darkens the floor a bit, and this lightens it up a bit. And it's just a personal preference, like I already mentioned. So I'm going to take these oaks back and replace the sandstone. You can do that outside as well, like so. Especially you have a part like this, it's good to go diagonal, so you can still see it's broken down. Like this. That's a bit, as you can see, that's a bit too systematic. So well, if I do that, it's even more. I'll just remove this one. So you can see it's kind of a delicate balance you need to find. it's a lot of trial and error, chopping pieces out, looking if it, seeing if it looks better, redo. It's an iterative process, so it takes a couple of tries before you get an area good. Yeah, see, this is also too systematic in my eyes, in my opinion. Well, I guess my eyes works as well. Yeah, something like this anyway. Next come the pillars. Now this rather different story between these and those. The stone and the wooden ones. I'm a bit at loss for words today. Guess that's from studying, because right now I'm taking a little break from studying to record. I was going on about columns, right. So here again, just be very gentle with the amount you use. And what you do not want to do in this case is say, alright, I have this, and like the leaves, I'm going to take out one random and place this in. That looks totally obnoxious. That's just horrible. You could do that with spruce, I guess. See, let's take out some spruce and I'll show you why I think that's not a good alternative. A good fluff. This is in spruce, this is in spruce, this is. And let's just take a bunch. There you go. So this, if you want to, you can do that, but as you already saw, this difference is enormous. And even though you are only having a column out of one type of wood, it's still important to have this small difference, not that large one. So what I reckon with these, if you want a bit more tactical, no, mathematical, no, technical, that was the word I was looking for. If you want a bit more technical about it, I have 8 columns in here total, and I chose to do 2 of those with the alternative, with the fluff. If you do 4, you have 50-50. You have the same problem I illustrated with the leaves on one side and the other. It will look too much like it's just made out of both woods instead of that it has been fluffed. 3 might work as well, and I chose 2. I think that about a quarter is a good relation. About the same thing we have over here with the floor. Well, this might be a third, I don't know. A quarter does give extra texture without making it feel like you are adding another block. Same goes over here. Also 2 out of 8 columns and 1 out of the 4 tall columns. 1 out of 6 actually, but details. I can count, really. I haven't fluffed the stairs, by the way. One thing you could fluff these with, by the way, are cracked and mossy stone brick. But you don't have those in stairs and slabs, and that really annoys me. And I don't have those 2 blocks because I don't have a stronghold yet. So, when it comes to these, the stone, that's actually a lot easier to do. You can just randomly add gravel. And it would look like your column has been a bit worn down. If you do it at the top, you can do it like that. You can also just do it at the bottom, like so. And especially want to add some over here too. Is that a normal block? Yes, I suppose it is. Add some over there, there, there. See, you can already see it looks much more lively, much more worn. You can do one in the middle as well. At the top, I broke another one of these. But here as well, it's important to remember that you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to have too much. And one easy way of doing that is just don't add it in every column you have. If I added gravel in each and every column, it would just seem like the columns were made out of 2 block types instead of it being fluff. As you can see here, not every column has it. And why did I switch to water? Because my scroll wheel does that sometimes. Personally, I like to add it near the top, because it seems more realistic that that piece of the column is worn. But bottom also works just fine. And let's change you. You probably will never see that again, but details. And sure, let's add it over there. I didn't... No, that one hasn't got mossy cobblestone in it. That's another way, of course, to fluff that up, but it's much more bam in your face. It's green instead of just grey, so that's not really something I would fluff with. So yeah, that's a bit of basic of fluffing stuff up. So to summarize it a bit, when you have a basic block and you want to fluff it, take a fluff block, preferably with a slightly different texture. Try to keep the change in color to a minimal, because you know it can easily slightly change the texture with this one with taking nether brick blocks. It's different texture slightly, but the color, grey, red, no. Just like keeping the same texture but change the color is also a dangerous one, as you saw with the spruce. And when fluffing, do so with caution. Do not add too much of your fluff block or it will dominate your build. It will no longer be adding texture but adding another block type. I put up vines here and there and there. I'm not quite sure I like the vines. They're not too bad, but they seem to be overgrowing everything. I have placed wires, string, to prevent them from growing, but it appears they grow in every direction possible, which means that even if you plant it like this, some grow up. Like over here. I'm sure I never did that. Actually, let's remove this and we'll see next episode if that has grown back. So I'm not sure if I'm doing the vines, that's why I haven't done it over here. We have bandit. I'm just really happy with that bandit here. Let's just dump this. That's all stuff that hasn't got a proper place just yet. Let's show you that this is in fact now completely solid. Before you could see my water and stuff what I'm doing down here. No more. As you can see over there, I've already started to think about expanding in that direction. Another island, but no. That won't be happening for a long time. I might occasionally add some land there, but the height of the island isn't correct yet. It's going to be the central island. That one. So I'm probably going to make a couple of islands around it first, just to get a grip on how high it should be. Because we're now at 163. Yes, it's the highest land point. And some of you might remember that there was a hill over there, but I removed it. I do think I'm going to build a new island over here. Pretty soon. Just a small island. But yeah. So I hope this talk about fluffing up your buildings has been instructional. I hope that you learned something from it, and if you do not, well, I hope you enjoyed it, watching it. That's nearly as important, right? And of course, after you've done fluffing, you can add things like trapdoors and paintings and whatever you like. Counters. I haven't found a way of livening these up because everything you do with these quickly gets too contrasting. I haven't actually tried oak, I believe. Oak stairs. Let's see what that does. Oh yeah. No. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, if you use this, you can certainly no longer do that. But I think the contrast is too big. Spruce is just too contrasting with the other woods. Of course, changing this with birch would be even worse. But anyway, that's all for today. As I said, it's not going to be much. Just something to help you get along and pretty up your builds. Because, well, let's be honest, if you think away all the vines, that was almost good English. If you imagine the vines weren't there, that's better I suppose, it would still look a lot better because of the added textures. Except that this one has none on this side. Well, that's okay. I was of course referring to the logs. I did think about changing some of those with cobblestone, but I'm not sure about that because that will be very hard to do here with cobblestone and this one. Somehow that one's really annoying me. Okay, so one last piece of gravel. There we go. Where did the trapdoor go? Oh, in my inventory. So in case you didn't notice, I filled all these up. So this is my supply of leather armor, supply of gold armor, chain armor, and iron armor. I believe, yeah. We have all my picks, all my axes, all my shovels, efficiency 4, fortune. I was level 49 and I enchanted this shovel, another fortune shovel. I don't know why, but as of late 90% of my shovels have fortune on them. And these are my swords, my bow, and there was something that's supposed to be in here. Or not. Does this really hold all my picks? Yeah, fortune pick, efficiency, and non-existent touch. I have this one. So on that note, thank you all very much for watching. If you thought this was helpful, then, and you have, you know, friends who play Minecraft, fear not, and share this with everyone you know. Well, maybe not. Well, oh well. Anyway, on that note, I'm ending this episode and going back to studying for my exam. By the time I upload this, I have probably returned already from my exam. So it might be late on the day Friday. So, goodbye.